Gen Z, often labeled lazy, entitled by other generations, by other employers, a stigma that has followed that generation for a long time. In this article, though, from Fortune, they are discussing that maybe Gen Z isn't as lazy or entitled as people think they are, and simply there's a strong misunderstanding from older generations that are not understanding their value system and what matters to them, and eventually it may catch up, especially in the business market. In this article entitled "Gen Z is incredibly ambitious, they're just not interested in climbing your corporate ladder," a very interesting article that I think is worth the time to look at. So let's go ahead and jump right in. It says it's 8 a.m. on the website, or on the west side of Los Angeles, and Angelica Song, Angelica Song, there we go. Man, I need to wake up. Is getting ready for work as a marketing manager at Google, but unlike most other managers at the company, hundreds of thousands of people know exactly what her morning routine entails. Song, 24, she's only 24 years old, nabbed her coveted post-graduation tech job in 2021 after hustling hard during her internship and working long hours. In addition to her full-time gig with Google, she's also carved out a space for herself as a social influencer under a genre she calls corporate girly, posting videos with advice to recent graduates, how much she spends in a day, and her home buying experience. As an influencer, she's landed partnerships with Lexus and LinkedIn, doing brand deals and posting for her roughly 300,000 followers across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. She says her side gig brings in roughly 2 to 3 times what she makes at her corporate job. I may be entry level at my Google job, but at my off-time job, I'm like the CEO of my own company. I run my own business, and I have a team that helps me. It takes a lot of ambition to clock out after your day job and then fully dive back into another full-time job. Gen Z entered the workforce during a once-in-a-generation global health crisis about 2 years ago, and many had never known a professional life before the world shut down for the better part of 2 years. As society slowly returns to a new version of normal, a narrative has emerged that paints Gen Z as lazy and lacking the ambition required to succeed at work. But Gen Zers like Song, as well as workplace experts Fortune spoke with, say that young workers are in fact extremely ambitious. They're just uninterested in climbing an antiquated corporate ladder, and their efforts to redefine what success looks like will significantly transform how companies deal with their newest employees and their ability to retain and develop this generation into future corporate executives. This is very interesting because my thoughts on this are that Gen Z is entering the workforce in droves, and that eventually we're going to get to a place where Gen Z overtakes the previous generation, and we're going to have to hire and grow leaders from within. And I firmly believe that organizations, no matter what you are in, whether it's non-for-profit, for-profit, die when there's a lack of ability for older leaders to raise up and lift up new leaders from the new generation and pass the torch, essentially. And so with that, we are entering into a day and age where, it's another generation now where the value system is different. And it really dawned on me as I began to see the difference between my generation and the younger generation, as in my local church, where I started serving in the youth department, and how all of a sudden I felt radically unfamiliar with that generation's value system, when I always had looked at myself as the youngest person in the room and looked at myself as the younger person. And I began to see that, wow, all of a sudden I've crossed this phase, or this age in my life where I am, as a millennial, I am no longer in tune or in touch with the value system of the next generation, even to the point in my language and my talk and how I talk and the things I talk about, and even the social media platforms that I use. It's an insane experience. that everyone will experience, and I'm sure older generations that are beyond millennials that are watching this are laughing because everyone experiences it. So it is funny for me to experience it now for the first time. And so in that, I've come to understand that there is a completely different set of value systems, and irregardless if I feel like that value system is wrong or I don't agree with it or it's weird to me, what matters most is that if you have an organization where you're going to have to hire and bring people on, you're going to have to take the time to understand what that value system is, because eventually the organization will hurt if you're unable to recruit and grow in that way and have employees that are from that generation, because it will sink unless you're able to speak to them and get them to come to work. And that's been the problem. I mean, I've read books about in regards to millennials in that way. And here we are now where we have a new type of workforce coming in, and it's very easy to jump on the bandwagon and the misnomer that, hey, they don't want to work and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, no, I think what it is that a lot of people are out of touch with their value system. And it's easy to diss on that and spew on that right now because they don't make up a majority of the workforce. But when they do eventually make up the majority of the workforce, your company or your organization will be hurting for it because it's not taking the time to understand what they are. So this section here is interesting, a new kind of ambition. And this is where I wanted to pick up at. It says, Camilla, 26, who asked that her full name not be used for privacy reasons, recently put herself up for a promotion at the boutique public relations company where she works. She says that employees have to pitch themselves for promotions at her company and explain why they're ready for the job. I figure why not, she tells Fortune. She says it would be roughly a $10,000 pay increase to do essentially the same thing she does now with a smidge more responsibility. The money is compelling, but Camilla says she's not particularly interested in the designation in her email signature, nor is she overly concerned with what this promotion could mean for her long-term career goals. My vision of my job and life has much less to do with my actual job title, Camilla says. I don't need to make $1 million. Yeah, it'd be great, but I don't need that. Success doesn't have to be climbing the corporate ladder. It can just be just being really good at your job. At most, Camilla says she would want to be an account director someday. She's not opposed to climbing higher, but only if she can do the job in a way that allows her to maintain her work-life balance. She doesn't want phone calls and emails while on vacation like she's seen with past bosses. Song admits that she has some desire to be the chief marketing officer at a big company one day, but what she really wants is to feel passionate about her work and flex her skills, not just a high rank at a big company. This is really good. It's easy to say that I would love to be CEO one day or that I'd love to be CMO one day, but I had a really good mentor ask me, what is it out of those positions and titles that you want? Song says, there's obviously a vanity aspect of it. It's like a public declaration that you're able to make it that far, but ask yourself, what type of leader do you want to be? The rhetoric is common among Gen Z who broadly want to bring their full selves to the office and perform work that aligns with their values, Brooks says. Gen Z is more likely than older generations to pursue leadership positions, with 38% aspiring to be CEO compared to 18% of Gen X and 21% of Boomers, according to a 2022 study by global consultancy United Minds in partnership with KRC Research. But while ambitious to succeed, they seem far less interested in doing so in the halls of a traditional corporate structure and more on their own terms. According to Bank of America, 31% of Gen Z, much like Song, are turning to their passions as side hustles, demonstrating an entrepreneurial nature and desire to captain their own ship. The same United Minds survey found Gen Z are more likely to do the work they're paid for and not more, to value flexibility at work and see the gap between what they want at work and what they get as insurmountable. As a generation, they are far more aware of diversity and exploring their unique identities than previous generations. They are also politically and socially active and place substantial value on racial justice and sustainability, which can be hard to find in mainstream corporate culture. So anyways, in seeing this, what we're seeing then is basically that you have a generation of people that highly value what they personally value in their value system, like their their ideologies and political views and social justice views, and they are at a place where they hold much more valuable the idea of having the ability to pursue their own desires, their own things that they want to do, whether that's, camping. You could name it, like you could call it lazy because they want to go out and camp, they want to go home, that kind of stuff. But what they would say is like it's a work-life balance, and they want to pursue what is valuable to them. And if they have a position that they're up for, or a leadership role that they're up for, and that leadership role will take away from that, there are some of them that desire the work and desire the title, but there are others that would be okay with remaining in the position that they're in, making the money that they're in, and not moving up the chain. Essentially, what I see is that, like, you have a lot of these business gurus. We just listened to another business guru the other day in another article, trying to tell people, like, you're never going to be successful if you don't do XYZ, you don't work yourself to death. And it's completely alienated from the value system that we're seeing here, because that generation is not interested in working themselves to death. They don't want to do it. And in the sense of in an unhealthy manner. But it's and there are people that say, look, you got to hustle hard to get what you want out of life. And what we see is that they are willing to hustle hard when the work that they're doing aligns with their value system, and so they're pursuing other things to do that. And then if you say, well, you're never going to get the higher paycheck or whatever if you don't hustle hard, what we see then is a completely different generation where it's like, well, they're okay with that, and they'll just make it work, because they don't define success as making lots of money and having job titles. And so it's up to organizations to respond to that and figure out how to get what they need out of employees as that generation begins to take mold and shape of the job marketplace, and they become more and more attuned, or more and more prominent is what the word I'm trying to say, man. It escapes me. I need to wake up this morning, but prominent is what I'm trying to say. And so whether or not you like it, whether or not you agree with it, this is the way that the generation goes. And so if your company is going to be able to capture that model and continue to thrive, eventually you're going to have to figure out a way to keep it coming. And I think you're going to see companies that come down hard on employees, that have these strict structures where it's like, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars, but we expect more than 40 hours a week out of you, even though the job description says 40 hours a week. I think eventually they're going to have to bend the knee in most places, because they're not going to be able to find the workers to fill those roles. And you can sit here and tell yourself all day, well, AI is going to replace it, but there are a lot of business leaders now talking about how we are a very, very long way away from AI replacing any actual human position. And generative AI is not going to be the human replacement that we think it's going to be in almost every, I don't want to say almost every, but in most business needs and most employee needs, generative AI is not going to replace employees to the level or degree that it's being hyped up that it's going to do. And so I think what that looks like in the future is, more of these structures where, there's jobs that are flexible. Hey, on certain days you can work from home. We may leave early on some days. We may, take off on an extra day in the week. Things like that, I think, is what's going to start becoming more prominent as the Gen Z generation takes over and the value system takes over, and companies have to survive. And I'm not sitting here saying it's right. I'm not sitting here saying it's wrong. I'm just sitting here saying it is. That's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I thought this was a very interesting article. I'm really, really interested to see how other people respond to this. And maybe you are a Gen Zer, and maybe you agree with this, maybe you disagree. I want to know, because I am curious to see what people say about this. Please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys in the next one.